politics, especially in the Philippines, there's a saying that goes, everything is local. In politics, everything is local. In the 2025 elections and in previous elections here in the Philippines, everything is local means that you listen to and court not just the votes of your constituents, of people in the cities, in the towns, in the barangays, but you need to court and to get the approval of local candidates, including powerful dynasties. And such is the case here in Batangas City. Hi, my name is Bea Cupin. You are watching Rappler, and I am in Batangas City in the vote-rich province of Batangas, where the Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., his slate, barnstormed the vote-rich province with just days to go before Election Day in the Philippines. Today is May 3. The campaign officially ends on May 10, and on May 12, millions of Filipinos will head out to vote the next batch of leaders of this country, not just their local leaders, city, governor, provincial or town level, pero pati na rin yung 12 senators that will compose half of the Senate. Speaking of the need to court powerful families and find powerful allies in the local level, here in Batangas, isa sa mga highlight, at least for the candidates of Alyansa, is officially getting the support of gubernatorial candidate Vilma Santos Recto. She's a former governor herself. She also once represented Batangas in Congress. She is also the wife of Finance Chief Recto, the Finance Secretary of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. She is running for governor alongside her son, who's running for Vice Governor, Luis Manzano, better known as a TV personality. Also, her youngest son, Ryan Recto, is running to represent the 6th District of Batangas. That's a district that Ralph Recto once represented in Congress before he was appointed to his cabinet post. Now, that's not to say na Batangas is the only province in the Philippines where dynastic families dominate local politics. No? In fact, yung Alyansa itself is dominated by candidates who either hail from or are founders, kumbaga, or started dynasties themselves, with the exception perhaps of former Senator Ping Lacson, who is seeking re-election or who is seeking a return to the Senate in the 2025 election. So just to recap or to remind you of who the candidates of Alyansa are, we have Benhur Abalos, former Interior Secretary to President Marcos, re-electionist Bong Revilla, Manny Pacquiao, a former senator who is now seeking a return to the Senate, re-electionist Francis Tolentino, Abby Binay is the mayor of Makati, Lito Lapid is a re-electionist as well, Tito Soto, former senator, former Senate president, is seeking a return to the Senate, Erwin Tulfo acts as representative and former Social Welfare Secretary of President Marcos, and Camille Villar, the Deputy House Speaker, who is absent from this sortie as she was yesterday in Quezon and the week before in Pangasinan. We're going to talk about Camille a little bit more later in this recap, because after all, nabanggit nga ng caption kung binasa nyo na tila hindi siya binanggit ni President Marcos kanina, although her name was mentioned in the press releases of Alyansa as among those who got the support of gubernatorial candidate Vilma Santos Recto. Now, what is the main promise of the Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas? As the name would suggest, it is they sell it, or the Marcos administration sees the coalition of Alyansa as one that will support the agenda of the president in his 3 remaining years in his term. So supporting of the incumbent. Kung iba-iba man yung mga proposals nila, some candidates emphasize healthcare, some candidates emphasize education, economic development, anti-corruption, campaign promise. Pero yung pinaka-core nito is that they promise to support the agenda of the Marcos administration. President Marcos, in his stump speech here, as in other stops of the Alyansa, always makes it a point to highlight the experience of his candidates in the slate. They're former senators or re-electionists. They were formerly members of the House, local government officials, whether governor or mayor. Yung iba din sa kanila, as I mentioned earlier, ay mga cabinet officials in the past, including former cabinet officials of President Marcos himself. Interestingly, kanina, walang banggit nga kay Representative Villar, who has been skipping a lot of the Alyansa sorties. No, nabanggit ko nga, she wasn't here in Batangas, she was not present in Quezon yesterday, and she was not in Pangasinan the week prior. So again, that has fueled in the past speculation that either Representative Villar or the Nationalista Party, which is headed by the Villar clan, would kakalas ba sila sa Alyansa, pero sinabi na rin ng Alyansa mismo na hindi daw totoo yun, at the alliance remains intact. But as we talk about this promise of Bagong Pilipinas, we have to do a reality check, which is that President Marcos himself has painted this election as a referendum of sorts, as a choice between how he governs the Philippines and how the Philippines was governed under former President Rodrigo Duterte. Sinabi niya yun yung parang opening salvo ni President Marcos when the campaign kicked off in Lawag, in Ilocos Norte, way back in February 11. Of course, ang dami na nangyari since then. Right before the kick off the campaign, Vice President Sara Duterte, formerly the ally of President Marcos and the daughter of the former President Duterte, was impeached by a Marcos-allied house. And then in the middle of the campaign, the Marcos administration decided to arrest former President Rodrigo Duterte on the basis of an ICC or International Criminal Court warrant, and he's now in The Hague where he faces charges of crimes against humanity over his bloody drug war. So ang dami na nangyari. So as President Marcos and his late promise or sell the promise of a Bagong Pilipinas, the reality is former President Duterte remains quite popular in the Philippines. There are no surveys that actually rate kung how popular he is himself, although surveys indicate na voters or Filipinos want him to face charges over his bloody drug war. But at the same time, the interesting thing is, tumataas yung numbers naman ng mga senatorial candidates whom former President Duterte endorses. In fact, si AXIS Representative Erwin Tulfo once was the clear and solo frontrunner in preference surveys for the Senate slate. Ngayon, yung survey leader ay si re-election ni Senator Bongo, the longtime aide of former President Rodrigo Duterte. At the same time, Vice President Sara Duterte has been seeing her numbers recover from a dip previously. Tapos, parallel to this, or kasabay naman ito, President Marcos has seen his numbers dip when it comes to trust and approval. Kung Pulsation tignan mo, medyo dramatic yung dip, pero kung Okta research, medyo marginal lang yung dip, but still, we've seen a trend na bumababa yung approval or trust ratings kay President Marcos, especially in the aftermath of Duterte's arrest. So the question here now is, will a Bagong Pilipinas promise resonate with voters in the 2025 elections? The reality also is that, based on preference polls, it's the Alyansa candidates who are poised to dominate the May 12 election. At least 9 out of the 11 na lang kasi si Senator Amy Marcos ay hindi na kasapi or hindi na siya kandidato ng Alyansa. 9 days to go again to election day on May 12. 7 days left to campaign. May 10 is the last day of campaigning. Can Bagong Pilipinas win the midterm elections? Now, if you have an answer to that question, you can download the Rappler app, go to the communities part of the Rappler app, and look for the Politics and Governance channel. I'm there, my colleagues are there, editors are there, thought leaders are there, and give us your opinion, give us your 2 cents. Tingin nyo ba, sapat ba yung pinapangako ng Alyansa slate to court voters on May 12? Of course, on May 10, the last day of the campaign, watch out for Rappler's coverage. A lot of meetings de avance will happen on that day. And then on May 12 is election day, where millions of Filipinos will be heading out to vote for 12 senators, their representatives in Congress, party list representatives as well as their local government leaders. All in one day. We'll be giving you updates from all across the Philippines. Tune in for that. And until then, my name is Bea Copin. You have been watching Rappler. You will still be seeing me in the coming days because meron pa ngang 1, 2, 3, or 4 stops. 2 to 3 stops yung Alyansa bago mag-wrap up officially yung campaign ng admin slate. This has been Rappler. Thank you so much for watching.